Well, I think maybe the biggest division in understandings of knowledge altogether is one which puts rationalists, empiricists, and indeed even Kant on one side, and views that try to deconstruct that whole way of looking at things on the other side. See, there is this drive, which I suppose we could say starts with Descartes, that he's a handy person to start with, to achieve a kind of certainty and control over the whole knowledge domain by understanding knowledge in something like a representational mode. That is, what knowledge is Descartes says at one point, it's inner representation of outer reality. So we clearly distinguish one from the other. We clearly examine our representations. We see what makes them reliable. We then try to work on that and build up reliable knowledge. Now this is, you might say, a mediational view of knowledge. We know the world through something else. In Descartes' case, in Locke's case, it's inner representations, which they call ideas. They differ because they differ to what extent. The building up we do from those ideas is helped by certain innate or rational processes, or rather simply by experience, but they're still within the same broad picture. For Kant, what mediates it is rather the conceptual schemata that we impose on the world, the categories we impose on the world. But there again, we have the picture of the stuff that comes in and the categories that we impose. Now, I think the idea that's been emerging out of a wide-ranging critique that you see in, for instance, Heidegger, in Merleau-Ponty, in Polanyi, I believe in the late Wittgenstein, even earlier in Hegel, adumbrated in Hegel, is a totally other view of the world in which, rather than seeing or knowing the world through something, either ideas or the molds that we impose on it, we see the human being as always, originally, from the very beginning, involved with the world, crunching it, feeling it, grabbing it, working with it, and so on. And out of this original relation to the world, there develop certain representations. We learn language, so we learn how to encode the things that surround us in a certain form. But our understanding of this world never uniquely consists in these codifications. We're always at a more fundamental level in contact with it, pushing it, pulling it, being pushed around by it, manipulating it, walking in it, coping with it, right? Coping, I guess, is the general term. We're always in a deeper level in contact with it. And so any theory which tries to understand knowledge exclusively in terms of the way our representations work or the way in which our conceptual structures work is missing the whole context in which these things have meaning. It's missing how creative we can be, how much we can sometimes transcend and go beyond our representations, because we have a deeper sense of how we're linked to things and can challenge these representations in the name of that, right? It's a deep, deep misconception. It's a motivated one because once you have this view, this representational view, the hope for getting a kind of total control over it and getting total clarity becomes a possible hope. Whereas if you see that you are primarily at grips with the world, you know that that's always got to be largely beyond your ken. It's a background. You can articulate some of it, but not all of it. You've got to let go this hope of kind of controlling our knowledge process before you can open yourself, I think, to the insight that it never really works that way, that the whole enterprise which Descartes started was started on a wrong path. And you can fiddle around within this, move from rationalism to empiricism, make the mediational element from representation to categories, but you still are barking up the wrong tree. You're still running up the wrong alley.